very precise, very organized, and things like that. And yeah, Hella Hammond, one of our great natural remote viewers, and she worked with taking coordinates too a little bit and everything. And she was a hard case. She was a wonderful person, but you know, she had her opinions. You know how women are like that. And things. And she was sort of unimpressed. And I says, damn, what am I going to do to impress her? So I gave her a coordinate which was right on top of the Khyber Pass. You know where the Khyber Pass is? Yeah. In Pakistan and India, and the elevations are very extreme and very high. And we picked the coordinate that was really on top of one of the highest things, looking down on the Khyber Pass and the Great Desert around her. So she did her little ideogram, and she started doing her stage 2s, and she says, oh my God, I'm getting elevation sickness. I have to stop. No, continue. It's just part of the stage 2s. And she said, you've got to be joking. And now she was holding on to the table. And so I thought I should end the training session and show her what it was. And she says, well, you son of a bitch, didn't you know I was afraid of heights? And I said, no, I didn't know that. And I said, are you impressed? And she says, yeah, I have to be impressed. And this was a woman that thought most people were Fleisch mit Augen. Huh? Meat with eyes. That was her general impression of her. So it's very hard to impress her, you know. Anyhow, yes, sir.
Is there any evidence to suggest that the information data packets that you receive can be altered or changed by airside and non-airside telepathic?
Would you repeat that?
So the information data packets are remote.
I'm sorry. Your accent, where are you from?
UK.
Okay. Can you get American here?
I've been here 2 years, so I'm trying to.
So, take it slowly.
Yeah. Is there any evidence to suggest that the information data packets that you receive...
Packages, okay.
Packages can be altered or changed by airside or non-airside telepathics?
Well, we change them all the time anyway. You know, an information package is a lineup of data that more or less fits together and is self-contained and self-reflective, right? Something like that. And yes, they can be altered by human consciousness. We see people all the time altering other people's information packages, or reality boxes, if you want to consider it that way. But I'm sure you're thinking of psychic mind control, aren't you? Yes. I don't know. It takes, I think you have to have sort of developed telepathy to be able to do that on a predictable basis. Yes, sir?
Ingo, I don't know much of your history.
I haven't told you enough.
When and how did you become aware of your ability?
I was born with them. They created a big ruckus when I was a child. And many people are born with them. You know, there are a lot of infants that are born with them active. They have at least 60 of their motherboard's buttons ready for activity. And social conditioning around them closes them down until their responses and their perceptions fit with the majority, you know. And if that can't be done, then they're thrown to the outside in some form or another. So I was born with them. I was born a very good clairvoyant. I was born a reasonably good telepath, which means when my father came home late, and my mother would say, where the hell have you been? And he would say, I worked late at the garage. And I would say, oh no, Daddy, I saw you up in the pool hall getting drunk. See, I have this naive side, which has never totally gone away. You know.
On TV, they've had a couple of the people in the program doing the thing on TV, and one of them mentioned the fact that he was able to travel in time, and also that was kind of like playing God at some point.
It has a big idea about itself, doesn't it?
I wasn't quite sure, but can you do time travel on an alien ship?
Well, it's not whether you can, does it result in anything, you know. But in our remote viewing, it certainly was demonstrated that the potential's there. Hella Hammond, again, played a fundamental role in this. You know, at first at SRI, there was the outbound experimenter, where one or two guys drove in their car and then dialed up their random number generator to pick out a target of a pool they had, and then they proceeded there to be there at a given time, and then Hella was supposed to say where they were. So that was going along. Hal and Russell and a lot of government people enjoyed doing this, you know, because, you know, they came to SRI and they got to go out in the fields and the forests and watch the birds and things like that. So one day, Hal and Russell came in. This was an outbound thing that some congressman went the outbound thing, that he had to be sure there was no monkeying around with the target, and that he would pick his own target after he left SRI. You know, they're funny that way, you know. So Hella was waiting, and this, you know, Hella didn't like to wait, and so you didn't want really to keep her waiting. So then Hal and Russell came running down the hallway to my little offices and says, Hella says she already knows what the target is, and it can't have been selected yet. What are we supposed to do? And I says, well, let her tell you what the target is. You know, we're not going to fight with Hella. We know that, for one thing. So let her say what the target is. So she said what the target is. It hadn't been produced yet in the outbound experimenter. And then she went on to some important date that she had or something like that. So the guy came back. Thank you. The guy came back, and he had taken Polaroid photographs of the target, you know, which was near a playground, child's playground, and it was an overpass that went over the road, and it had wires on both sides and the top so the kids couldn't fall off, you know, things like that. So he put those out there, and they pulled out Hella's drawing, which was an overpass with wires and things on it near a child's playground. So, okay, this was not exactly 2 years into the future. It was like a half hour into the future, but it was into the future. Okay, so that's how we knew that in certain cases you could do a remote viewing session and front time it. You could give it a different time ahead, and that's how we figured out, well, if we can do front time ones, we can do back time ones too. So we started experimenting with back time ones, and then we had government people coming with events that had happened in the past, which they didn't really understand too well. And he says, well, can you back time on this one? And I said, sure, we'll try anything. How much money did you bring with you? I asked that. I mean, is this suitcase down here filled full? All right.
I'm patient.
Yes, patient.
So you tell me, what was my question?
I'd have to search among my memory files of your questions. What is your question?
The question is, could you tell these people whether or not there was a paradigm shift when you started the remote viewing?
No, I think not then. Willis Harmon and his group, maybe you know, he had a big project at SRI, which was in the days when futurology was still being invested in, you know. And he was the first to suggest that remote viewing could bring about a paradigm shift. But then his last effort out at SRI, about 1979, to predict the future was such a bomb that he lost his project. And but recently, in the last 6 months, there have been conferences, especially on consciousness, that minimally indicate that remote viewing has caused a chasm in consciousness research that has nothing in it that can bridge the chasm. And that's the beginning, or potential beginning for a potential paradigm shift there.